Okay, so in the last session, we completed the VPC topic. In today's session, let's go with a service called Route of 53. So first, let me give you the brief overview about what a Route 53, and then we will see like how it works, and then we will go with some kind of a practical. So coming to this Route 53, it is a Amazon managed service, fully like we can say highly available service. So high availability and everything will be taken care by the AWS itself. Route 53 is AWS managed, highly scalable DNS and a domain registration service. It is like highly scalable and highly available domain registration service and as well as a DNS service, highly scalable and highly available DNS and domain registration service. First of all, what exactly these two are, DNS and domain registration. Let's try to understand these two terminologies first, and then we can get into the Route 53 topic. Let us say you are planning to run a website. Okay, you started a new business and you want to run a business. So you set up an easy, like a kind of a server within your organization itself, in which you hosted a website, in which you hosted a simple website in which you are displaying or you are showcasing your company information and the services offered by your company and all. Now, how the users should access this website is it will have a public IP address, right? With the help of a public IP address, the website can be accessible. Let us say the IP address is 11.12.13.14 is the IP address, which is a public IP. Now, the users, how they can access this website is, let us say here, there is a user. He wants to access your website. So what you have to do, you need to display, you need to share your IP address. So he opens his browser, right? In the browser, he will type 11.12.13.14, the IP address of your machine, and the request will be sent to that particular EC2 instance using HTTP traffic or HTTP or HTTPS. Then the website which is running in your website, in your EC2 instance or in your server, it will send a response. What response? The home page of the website. That is how anything can be accessible in the internet. But we are having like millions and millions of websites available, right? But we never ever accessed any website using the IP address. Let us say google.com, yahoo.com, Rediff, CNN, or aws.amazon.com, flipkart.com. Every website is accessible with the help of the name instead of the IP address. And that name is known as a domain name. That name is known as a domain name. Let us say I want to give a name to my website so that every user can access my website using the domain name instead of IP address, because nobody can remember the IP addresses easily. So can I say like this to be accessible using google.com? Can I configure my website to be loaded with the help of google.com? No, because this must be registered. You must register this particular domain name. You must register, and these domain names are going to be unique across the globe. Who will maintain this uniqueness? There is one organization called ICANN. Like for IP addresses, IANA is responsible, right? So for the domain names, ICANN. So what we have to do, we need to first register your domain name. That doesn't mean we directly approach ICANN and we will buy it. So ICANN appointed some domain registrars. They appointed some domain registrars, like your telecom operator under the TROI, domain registrar, Domain registrar. What is the purpose of the domain registrar? We can register our domain names. Nobody can buy any domain name forever. They only can register like for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, up to 10 years, and then they can renew it every year. They can renew it every year. So whenever I want to use a name for my IP address, first I need to register. So first what I do, I will contact domain registrar and I want to register google.com. What they do, they will check the global database, the ICANN database, and they will say, okay, google.com is not available. They will say google.com is not available because they're going to maintain the uniqueness. So can you name few domain registrars? Have you heard about GoDaddy? There is something called a Namecheap or a Big Rock, right? These all are the domain registrars. The same way, the Route 53 also acts as a domain registrar. Means the first thing, with the help of Route 53, you can register a domain. Let us say this is already taken. So I will register abc.com. Assume abc.com is available and I registered it for 1 year. Before 1 year, they will send you a reminder. You can renew it by paying the money. It is not a free. You have to pay on a yearly basis. It starts like $10, $11. It depends on the domain name. We have multiple domain names available: .com, .in, .co, .gov, .au, .in, right? You can choose whatever you want. Based on the domain extension, the charges will be applicable. Okay, now I registered abc.com domain name. But now, how should I configure? How can I configure that the users can access my website with the help of the domain name? Here, there is a concept called DNS. There is a concept called DNS, domain naming system. I can easily compare this DNS with the phone book in your mobile phone. I can say you can compare the DNS with the phone book in your mobile phone. What is the use of the phone book? We can't remember like hundreds of mobile numbers, right? Your friends' mobile numbers. What I can say, I will save their names in my phone book, like how, like this, or some names like ABC901. Then what is the advantage? No need to dial the number. I can dial the name and I will click on the call button. What happens? First, the request will go to the phone book. In the phone book, it will search for this name. Once it finds the name, then it will retrieve the number from the phone book and the call will be connected to that particular number. That's how the phone book works, right? The same way the DNS works. So already we registered abc.com domain. Assume we already registered abc.com. From where, let us say I registered from a route 53. In the Route 53, I registered a domain name called abc.com. Then, what is the DNS, domain naming system? The DNS contains a hosted zone, domain names. Sorry, DNS server contains a hosted zone. What is a hosted zone? The hosted zone is the place where it contains the information about your domain. So let us say here, first we will create a hosted zone with the name abc.com, in which we will create a records. A record is nothing but a kind of an entry. And in these records, we have multiple types of records available: A record, 4As, C name, or alias. And we have n number of records available. But these four are commonly used records. These four are the commonly used records. What exactly happened here is, let us say in the DNS, I will create a record, any type of record. Just let us say, I will create that here. How can I say? Okay. So I will create a record abc.com IP address is 11.12.13.14. Now, what happens whenever this user opens his browser and types abc.com? First, the request will go to the DNS server. Across the globe, there are n number of DNS servers available. I will explain that also. And it will search for a hosted zone of abc.com. Then it will enter into that hosted zone and it will retrieve the information about the abc.com, and that information will be sent to your laptop, and then to that particular IP address a request will be sent, and that's how you will be able to access the website. This is how the DNS works. But in a DNS, for every domain name, we will create a hosted zone. Let us say if we have like 5 different domains, abc.com, xyz.com, and so on. You have to create a separate hosted zone for every domain name. And that hosted zone contains a records. Each and every record is for a specific use case. What are those use cases? The first one is a record, right? A record. A record is used to point the domain name with IP address. If you want to connect your domain name with the IP address, we will have to use, actually, these two are known as host records. We have to use the host record whenever you want to point your domain name with IP address. But here we have two types, right? The A record is exclusively for IP version 4, whereas the 4A records is exclusively for IP version 6. There is the only difference. But the purpose of the both the records is to retrieve the IP address information from the domain name. Then what is the CNAME? CNAME is also known as a canonical name record. Let us say my record is my domain name is abc.com. If I want to point my abc.com to xyz.com, what does that mean? Domain rerouting. Whoever is accessing abc.com, I can redirect that traffic to xyz.com in the backend, because both belongs to myself, or abc.com was acquired by xyz.com. So whoever is accessing abc.com, they want to redirect them to xyz.com. That is also possible with CNAME, canonical name. And then the last one is alias record. The last one is alias record. What is the meaning of alias? Alternate name, right? Looks like the same. Looks like same. But what exactly the purpose of alias is? Alias is used to send the traffic from one domain name to whoever is trying to access abc.com. I want to send them to AWS resources like load balancer, CloudFront. They do have some DNS names, right? If you want to forward your domain name traffic to AWS resources DNS name, then you have to use alias record. So let us write down few points about this, and then just we can go with some practical also. While creating the records, we have a different types of records available, like routing policies, we call it, right? So we will talk about that also. So first one, let us talk about a domain registrar. What exactly the domain registrar? The purpose of the domain registrar is to allow the users to register the domain names for a specific period of a time. And all the domain names must be unique. Hence, we can register only the available domain names. We can register only the available domain names. And who will take care of this domain uniqueness? There is an organization called ICANN is responsible for domain name uniqueness. Domain name uniqueness. And under ICANN, all these domain registrars domain registrars exist, like telecom operators. Example, Airtel, Geo under a Troy for mobile for I can say telecommunication. This is just for comparison. Airtel, Geo, all has to be under Troy, especially in India, right? The same way, these domain registrars to be operate under the ICANN. So if you ask me, can you provide some list of domain registrars? List of domain registrars, or I can say Route 53 is a domain registrar managed by AWS. Domain registrar managed by AWS. If you ask me the other domain registrars exist in the market, already I listed few, right? Let us list down those things. The first one, GoDaddy, then Namecheap, Big Rock, and there are a number of things. Bluehost is there, right? These all are the domain registrars. These all are the domain registrars. Okay. Now, what I do is I don't want to register, but I will show you how to register a domain name under Route 53. How to register a domain name in Route 53. At the same time, we will observe that we can't register a domain name which is already registered by someone. Okay. Then we will go with the DNS. Okay. And most important thing, Route 53 is a global service, a kind of an interview point of question. It's a global service. It doesn't belong to any region. It's a global service. Okay. How to register domain name in Route 53. Also, any idea about why they named it as a Route 53? Any guess why they named it as a Route 53? Any wild guess? Okay, I can give you a clue. You can use a Google also. This 53 represents a port number for a service. Can you guess what service it might be? Yeah, I'm saying the same thing. 53 is a port number. For what service the 53 is a port number? Any idea? Any guess before I click enter? Any guess? It is a DNS service. DNS service operates on port number 53. That's why Amazon named that their service as a route of 53. Yeah, that's correct. That's the reason Amazon named that service as a route 53. Okay. And especially coming to the route 53, okay, we will talk about in the hosted zones. Okay. So let us see how to register, right? Okay. So log into your Amazon account and then go to Route 53. Click on Route 53. And you can see here, it is a global service. It is a global service. Now, how to register a domain name? So here you can see there is one option called registered domains, right? Under domains, click on the registered domains. And I don't have any registered domains in this particular Route 53. No domains to display. Now I want to register a domain name. How? Click on registered domains. Let me try to register google.com or let us say yahoo.com. We already know that yahoo.com is already registered by someone. Let me try to register it. Search. What is the error? I mean, what is the information here? Yahoo.com is not available because it was registered by someone. Where we can check all those things, there is a website called who.is. You can go to who.is, which is a database. What happened? Yeah. So here you can type yahoo.com. Let me click for search. See here. They registered using a registrar called Mark Monitor. When it was created in 1995, they registered first. Recently, they updated on 2024, and it seems they renewed for 2 years. Before 2026, they will renew automatically, or generally they configure auto renew. They will add a credit card, a payment method, and they will configure auto renew. So before 1 week, automatically the domain name will be renew. If they forget to renew, after 10 days or so, that domain is available for everyone to register. Okay, let me search for rediff.com, or let me say amazon.com. It was registered in 1994 first. They registered in 1994. And let me check. Let me go for some other domain name. Flipkart.com. When it was registered, 2007, and they are using GoDaddy registrar. It was first registered in 2007. So whenever they started the company or before getting started, they registered that domain name called Flipkart, right? Okay. So if you have any domain names, you can check. So we can't register those domain names. Okay, let me go with and abc.com. These are popular names, right? So they might already register. abc.com is not available. Okay, so here, let me see, they will give some suggestions. abc.com is not available. You can go for live51abc.com, abcclothing.net, which is $17, .com is $15, 51abcgames.com, the abctube.net, abcgaming.net, superabcgames.com. They gave you some suggestions. If you like any, just you can click select and you can click on proceed to checkout, and you have to make the payment. See here, auto renew on. By default, it will be enabled. And you can check for 10 years, which is $150. 1 year, $15. You can go with the next. You have to fill all the information and then you need to make the payment. Then that domain name will be available in your Route 53 account, in your Route 53 service. I canceled it, right? Okay, this is how you can register a domain name. And also, not only Route 53, every domain registrar, Route 53 supports domain transfer. Not only Route 53, every domain registrar supports domain transfer facility. Can you guess what that might be? Which means if you already register any domain name with other registrars, you can transfer the domain name from that registrar to a Route 53. Assume I own the abc.com using some Route GoDaddy or something. I don't want to keep that outside. I want to keep that in my Route 53 itself. Then what I have to do, the same way, go to registered domains, transfer single domain, enter the name google.com. Don't think like if I type google.com and click on transfer, automatically that google.com transfer to my account. There's a lot of process. I have to validate that I am the owner of the google.com. First of all, whoever registers the google.com, they will enable transfer lock. I will show you. Click on check. First, it is checking the transferability, whether it is available for transfer or not. Nowadays, everyone is enabling, see here, not transferable. It is a lock. It is lock. Okay, let me check. Everybody will enable that transfer lock feature. That's by default. So what we have to do first, if I am the owner, I have to go to that registrar. I need to enable disable the transfer lock. Then here transferability will be shows available. Then I need to click next, 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 done. Then to that registered email or to that domain registrar or the registered valid email address, whatever is provided at the time of registering that google.com domain, on that email, you will receive a link, confirmation link. The moment once you click on that confirmation link, then only that domain will be transferred from the other registrar to Route 53. That's how you can transfer the domains. So I can, because I might have registered domains using different registrars. With the help of transfer in, I can move all domains under one place. Or you can maintain the domain in a different registrar, and you can maintain the DNS in Route 53 also. That we will discuss. So as of now, about the domain registration, are you guys clear or any questions? Are you guys clear with the domain registration or any questions? Okay, it seems everyone is clear. Let's talk about DNS. This DNS is not only AWS service. Everywhere there's a common service. Generally, we call it as a DNS, which is domain naming system, domain naming service, domain naming server, whatever. Okay. The purpose of the DNS is used to resolve the IP address from domain name or vice versa. DNS is used to resolve the IP address from the domain name or vice versa. What does that mean? If you enter the domain name, DNS will give you the IP address information about the domain name. Across the globe, there are multiple DNS servers available. So if by, or what we can do, what we can say is, for every domain, for every domain name we register, we must create a hosted zone. We must create a hosted zone in DNS. Hosted zone is a directory which contains the information about the domain name in the form of records. The form of records. And in a DNS, there are different types of records available, and each record is meant for different use cases. And Route 53 also has DNS as feature. What are the different types of records? Popular types of records. The first one is a host record, in which we have two different types. One is a A record, and the second one is 4A records. Then the next one is a CNAME record, and the third one is alias record. And there are something called SRV, then MX record, then something called SPF, spam filtration, right? There are n number of records available. Out of all these, the first four records are useful. So here I can say host record is used to point the domain name to an IP address. It has two types again. What are those? First one is A record, is used for IP version 4 address mapping, whereas 4A records is used for IP version Day36 address. If you ask me, like how it looks like, right? Example. First one is name, abc.com. Type, A record, 11.12.13.40. This is how it looks like. And it has something called TTL and all the things, which we will discuss. 4A records, example, abc.com, 4A. Let me get some IP version 6 example. IP version 6 example address. Just I will copy paste. This is how the IP version 6 looks like, which is a 128-bit hexadecimal number. That's why you can see characters also, letters A to F, A to F, along with 0 to 9, you can get A to F also. Then CNAME record is used to send the traffic coming to your domain to another domain name. Like example, abc.com, CNAME record is going to be yahoo.com. So whoever types abc.com in the browser, they will see yahoo.com web page. Alias record is used to point the domain traffic to AWS resources. What does that mean? abc.com alias, I can say ALB DNS name or CloudFront DNS name, etc. If they type abc.com, the request will be forwarded to the load balancer where they can see the website. Because whenever you create a domain name, sorry, whenever you create a load balancer, it gives you some randomly generated name which doesn't represent your organization, right? So this is how we can do. And the hosted zones are chargeable in Route 53 because they are maintaining your information, right? They will charge you for creating hosted zones. For every hosted zone, I guess it is a 50 cents, $0.50 per month, like 0.5 US dollars per hosted zone per a month. Whether you create it for 1 day or 1 month, they will cost you $0.50. Okay, right. So now here, assume that we registered a domain name called abc.com. Now let's plan. Let's see how we have to use this abc.com. But we don't have registered yet, right? Also, there is one note point. We can register the domain name outside of the Route 53, and we can use Route 53 as DNS for that domain name. Means my domain name is registered with GoDaddy, but I can use DNS as the Route 53. That's I will show you like how it works and all. Okay, so first thing what we do is create a okay, and a Route 53 supports or provides two types of hosted zones. One is private hosted zone, and the second one is a public hosted zone. What does that mean? The private hosted zones provide the service, or I can say private hosted zones are accessible from the selected VPCs only. If you create some records, right, that record information is not visible for everyone. It is only available for internally. Like sometimes we need to maintain a domain name for internal usage in the VPC, right? In such cases, we can create the private hosted zone. And the public hosted zones are accessible from anywhere across the globe. So I want to run a website called abc.com so that every user from anywhere across the globe can access my website. What type of hosted zone I need to create? Public hosted zone. Okay, right now create a public hosted zone for abc.com. The moment I click on create, I will be charged $0.5 for the entire month. Okay, the rest of the month I can say. How to do that? Just go to the Route 53 and click on hosted zones. Already I have a hosted zone. I will explain that later. Click on create hosted zone here. Give some name abc.com, public hosted zone. Click on create hosted zone. What happened? We encountered an error creating delegation set for your hosted zone. Why? Okay, I will show you. If you are trying to create a private hosted zone, you need to select like this. You need to choose a region, like from which VPC this hosted zone to be accessible. US East 1, my first VPC, like this, so that this hosted zone is only accessible from this VPC. Means whatever the EC2 instances are available in this VPC, they can get the information from this hosted zone. But our requirement is to create a public hosted zone. Let me try. Why? Okay, it got created. I suspect abc.com was already created by someone. That's why they did not allow us to create. Okay, see here. Now you will get a question. Can I access my website asdfg.com directly, like now creating a record? No. First of all, you need to prove that you are the owner of this domain name, right? How wherever you register the domain name, go to that particular domain registrar. If you have the domain in the AWS itself, no worries. Automatically, it will be linked. It will identify. Then in that domain registrar, what you have to do is you need to copy these records. NS, name server, means, let me explain in a proper way. I don't want to create some confusion. This is the DNS. Which is Route 53. Okay, in which we created a hosted zone, right? In which we had a record asdfg.com 11.12.13.14. I'm about to create that, no worries. Okay. Assume I registered this domain name here. This is the GoDaddy. This is a GoDaddy registrar in which I registered asdfg.com. But Amazon doesn't know, right? Now, if someone type asdfg.com, it doesn't go to 11.12.13.14. So what I have to do in the GoDaddy also, there is going to be a DNS. There is going to be a DNS. In the DNS, by default, whenever you create a hosted zone, if you observe, by default, there were two records created, right? SOA and NS. SOA means start of authority, which is responsible to start your DNS service and all. NS stands for name server, name service. Means whatever the information you create in this hosted zone, that information is getting stored in these DNS servers. In the backend, these are the DNS servers. So here in the GoDaddy also, you will have SOA and NS records. What we have to do, you need to grab, let us say this is the hosted zone for your domain name. So here, what we have to do is update NS record values with the values from Route 53 hosted zone. What does that mean? Whatever the values you can see, those four will be updated here. So whenever a user types asdfg.com, the request will go to the domain registrar's DNS because that's the basic DNS. From here, it will get the NS values. Okay, means information about this particular domain name is available on these Route 53 DNS servers. Then the request will go here. It will get the values and then it will be connected to the actual server. I will show you that I have created that for my domain name. Okay, that's how we need to create. Now click on create record just to create a record. So here, let us write down a point. By default, NS and SOA records will be created along with the hosted zone creation. What is the purpose? SOA stands for start of authority, which is responsible to start the hosted zone along with the DNS service. Means it will make sure that the hosted zone will be up and running or available all the time. NS stands for name server or naming server. This contains the information about the actual DNS servers in which the information is getting stored. Whenever we register a domain name with registrar1 and using the DNS from Route 53, then we need to grab the NS values from Route 53 and update the NS record at registrar1. So that what happens? So that whatever the request received by the registrar1, I mean the actual registrar where you registered domain name, received by the registrar will be forwarded to the Route 53 DNS server. That's how you can service your end users. Now, create a record so that the users can access asdfg.com and connect to 11.12.13.14. Means my actual website is running at the IP address 11.12.13.14. Okay, click on create record, record name. If I type ASD, what happens? asd.asdfg.com. Keep it blank so that the record name will be asdfg.com. What type? Record type. Record type is going to be the A. What is the purpose of A record type? What is the purpose? It route traffic to an IP version 4 address and some AWS resources. Why they mention AWS resources? If you this one, alias. Later I will show you. So A record, 4A, CNAME, MX, TXT, PTR, SRV. These are the different types of records available. Let's go with A record. Enter 11.12.13.14. TTL 300 seconds. What does that mean? Keep the routing policy simple. This is the most commonly used routing policies. We have different, but no one will use these. Go with simple routing. What is the TTL? Time to live. I will explain what it is. Click on create records. What happened here? One record got created with a record. Routing, simple routing, leave that. Alias, it is not alias record, it's just a record. Whoever types asdfg.com, they will be forwarded. The traffic will be forwarded to 11.12.13.14. TTL is 300 seconds. What does that mean? If I edit this information, edit this record,